because I spoke, how many of you were at the talk I gave? Okay, so a good number of you. Well, that was the short version. I'm only giving the 4-hour version now, so no. No, I'm gonna make it quick. Someone once said to me, I gave a short little talk, and they said, oh, you came up to me afterwards and said, you were great. You did the 3 Bs. I said, the 3 Bs? He says, yes, be brilliant, be brief, be gone. So that's my goal, okay? I don't know about the brilliance part, but I'll definitely be brief and be gone. What I wanted to do was just give you, all you committed pro-life warriors who've been in this battle probably much longer than many, Dorinda and myself, my take on all the different issues real quick. We all know abortion. We all know that Justice Gorsuch just was raised to the Associate Justice position. And when Justice Scalia had died, Dorinda and I were really distraught. So we're really blessed that God has worked out to bring it. We're still at the best case scenario, assuming that all the justices we think would vote to reverse Roe, we're still one short. But we don't know. We don't know how some of the other justices that we think might go one way. So we still need to get to 5 to reverse Roe. Now, if you want to look at what a reversal of Roe decision is going to look like, go back 20 years from 2017 to 1997. Not only was it the year of Dolly the sheep, but it was also the year of Washington versus Glucksberg. Now, 5 years earlier, in 1992, as you all know, the Supreme Court doubled down on the evil abortion decision of Roe with Planned Parenthood versus Casey. And in that decision, Justice Kennedy, in that joint opinion, had that ridiculous language about the mystery passage, at the heart of liberty is the right to do whatever you want. And so when a case was winding its way up to the Supreme Court, both from the Ninth Circuit and the First Circuit out of New York, we thought, gosh, using this language and they just reaffirmed Roe, we're going to get a Roe v. Wade of assisted suicide. And of course, you know, 9-0, the court said there was no federal constitutional right to assisted suicide, and it was an issue for the states to decide. Now, Lincoln had once said that the country before the Civil War couldn't remain all slave or all half slave and half free. It'd either have to be all one or all the other. But I will tell you, after 44 years of fighting for life, I would be very glad to get the federal courts out of the abortion issue and send it back to the states. It's not a perfect solution, but it would allow us to fight without the federal courts constantly striking down all the brilliant legislation that people come to. Okay. But if you look at Washington versus Glucksberg, and I don't know if you've read it lately, the assisted suicide case, it's absolutely amazing. Because when the Supreme Court says not only is there not a federal right to assisted suicide, and it's an issue for the states, then went on to say the state of Washington, and therefore all the other states, including Massachusetts, have all these great arguments for why they can prohibit assisted suicide. The first one being that the states have an, this is a quote, unqualified interest in human life. Wow, that's great. How about abortion? Unqualified interest in human life. Or the second one was states can act to prevent doctors from being killers and only protect them so that they're healers. That's great. What about abortion? And on and on and on. So if you want to see what a reversal of Roe case will look like, I believe that's the case that you'll see. With respect to cloning, and a number of you were there, the biotech area has there's going to be great things for humanity. Again, we're not Luddites. But the biotech area also has the capacity to surpass the number of deaths every year from abortion and blow by it in big numbers. So it's something that even though everyone is, when they think pro-life, we're against abortion, we have to be cognizant of that area. So there's great potential and great danger. And I'll come back to that right at the end. With respect to assisted suicide, which we now know is in the states, and I know you successfully here in Massachusetts, God bless you all, defeated the legislation to allow it. They're going to keep coming. You know, besides the horrific death toll of abortion, what it's done to the country since 1973 is just create, human life doesn't have absolute good anymore. It's a relative thing. It's a utilitarian thing. When you have utility, you know, you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, fine, society, you can produce for society, society will protect you. But at the early stages of life and at the end of life, what can you do for society? You know, the Nazis used to have the term useless eater. And that's the danger, right? That we dehumanize human life at the end, and you're just a useless eater. And that's a problem. But I think they thought they were going to sweep through the country 20 years ago, and there's still only 6 states, 5 by ballot or legislation and 1 by court order. So we're making progress, and it's the kind of progress we could make on abortion if we could get the federal courts out. With respect to healthcare rights of conscience, well, you know the last 8 years, what's happened under the past administration, the attacks. I mean, the fact that the Little Sisters of the Poor would have to be in federal court for years. God bless all the groups out there that do the religious freedom cases, because no one could afford it. The federal government just, in the early church, you were attacked by being thrown to the lions. That was your martyrdom. You actually lost your life. Well, you're probably not going to lose your life these days. You'll just get sued out of existence. It'll just take your pension, your house, your everything, and that's fine. You can have what's left, okay, and that's the danger. But healthcare rights of conscience, I'm going to Poland in a few weeks to speak on that specific issue. The issues are the same across Western civilization, and it's because the view has come to pass over the last, our cultural decline, that religion is simply toxic sewage. So you can believe whatever you want in your head, and whatever you want in your home, and whatever you want in your church, at least for now. But don't you dare bring your religious beliefs into the public square, right? And that's the fight we have. I mean, really, look at the First Amendment. This shouldn't be a hard issue, but it is. So we need, again, I'm talking to the choir here. You're all incredible heroes in this, but we need to fight for that issue. Some of you who heard the cloning talk, I said I would hold off until now my ending. So my ending is this. I always say that, so before I went to law school, I have a master's degree from Notre Dame, and I like to say I went to Notre Dame when it was Catholic and won national championships. And so my undergrad was in government international relations, my master's was in government international relations, but a focus on political philosophy. And what we were trying to figure out during the height of the Cold War, I worked with a great professor, Gerhard Niemeyer, who's since gone on to the Lord, but what was the issue? The issue was, how do you understand the pathological defect in Western civilization that allowed the rise of Soviet communism and Chinese Maoism and all these things, all these great totalitarian regimes, right? Because think about the 20th century. It's the bloodiest century in human history, okay? Again, you had Lenin, Stalin, Hitler, Mao. Now, we used to say that the book that captured that the best was 1984 by George Orwell. Why? Because George Orwell posited Big Brother, and Big Brother put a gun to your head and said, dehumanize yourself or die. And as we know, in the bloody 20th century, tens of millions of people died by the hands of totalitarian regimes, right? Blood ran through the streets, literally. But actually, after the fall of the Berlin Wall, another book that was written 16 years earlier is actually more prescient to where we are now, and that is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Now, interestingly enough, neither Huxley nor Orwell were Christians, but they were shrewd observers of the human condition. And when Orwell wrote his book, he sent a copy to Huxley, and he said, he had a big ego, he says, hey, here's my book, what do you think? And Huxley wrote back, it's okay, my book is better. He had a bigger ego too. But I think he's right. And you can see the letter is extant between them, the exchange. What does he mean by that? Why is his book, why is Brave New World, this dystopia, more prescient? Because as bad as totalitarian regimes are, you can see it. It's no hiding it. There's no obscurity or lack of clarity. There it is, the government. I mean, think of North Korea now. Right? You run afoul of the government, you're dead. Okay. But in the brave new world of the biotech arena, all the things we talked about before, the danger is that you will not have a gun to your head, but you'll be seduced. The temptation will be, you know what? We can give you medical utopia. We can cure all your diseases. Just get out of our way legally and give us all the money we need, and whatever heaven on earth is for you, we'll give it to you. And you know what? I fight for life my whole career. But if I had one of my children were dying, and someone said, oh, we can just kill this human embryo and help your child, would I be tempted? Sure, we're all human, we're all weak. So we have to, the danger again is the seduction, because it's not a frontal attack. And that's when I talk to law students and medical students, when we talk together as Bioethics Defense Fund, that's the thing I worry about. I worry about it for my children, I worry about it for all of us, is that we can be seduced. We can say, wink, wink, you know what? You can't see those human beings, they're microscopic. And really, do you really think they're of equal worth with grandma or your wife or your child. And that's the danger in the world we're in. Let me end with my favorite passage from the Old Testament, which is Isaiah 6. And we act as lawyers, and we don't give religious talks very much, but I feel in this audience I would like to share this. In Isaiah 6, Isaiah sees a vision of the angels. They're going up and down to heaven. And he gets this overwhelming sense of the majesty of God, and he feels his sinfulness overwhelmingly. And he goes, "Woe is me, I'm a sinful man." And at that moment, one of the angels grabs a burning coal, touches it to his lips, and he's purified of his sin. I kind of look at it as like early confession, first time, But then he hears the voice of the Lord authoritatively say, "Who shall go for us? Whom shall we send?" And of course, Isaiah stands up, as all of you have stood up your whole life, and I applaud you. "Here I am, Lord, send me." And that's I don't know if the fight to end abortion will end tomorrow like the Berlin Wall fell when people weren't expecting it, or it might be another 200 years. So here's the hope I will leave you. The first slave came to the New World in 1619, but the end of the Civil War and the passage of the 13th Amendment was not until 1865, 246 years later, which meant Christian people who saw the evil of slavery would live, get married, have children, and die. Would live, get married, have children, and they would die on and on and on, and would never see a change until it finally ended. Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896 said you could have the separate but equal facilities, the white water fountain, the black water fountain, the white bus, and that didn't end until 1954 with Brown versus Board of Education. 58 years. We're in year 44 in the abortion battle. Okay? From the end of the Civil War to the Civil Rights Amendment was 99 years. We're in year 44. The point is, in the United States, social reform movements take time, and we only lose if we give up. I know you will never give up, and I know you will be like Isaiah and stand and say, "Here I am, Lord, send me." And we are incredibly honored to be honored by you. We are with you. We will serve you in every way we can. We'll give talks. We'll do whatever we can, because I want to be with you, and I want to stand up at the gates of heaven someday, if my miserable self, the Lord has mercy on me, and say, "Here I am, send me, Lord. Here I am, Lord. We did this fight. We did this battle." So God bless you all. Thank you.